Welcome back, everybody, to episode 236. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned, and we will be right back after this short intro from our sponsors.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
So if you have done great things with your life, but your family and those closest to you do not love and respect you, I don't know how you can say you've been successful. You may have climbed the ladder to the top, but the ladder was leaning against the wrong building.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said earlier, I have a very special guest and probably one of my most favorite persons in the world on this earth walking today, breathing as we speak. We got the infamous, the most world-renowned person that I know personally on a personal level, R.D. Saunders, my man. How are you?
Buddy, you are way, way too kind, man. Thank you. It's so great to be back on. I love the industry, people like you leading the way. Proud to be associated with you, with all these great sponsors, some of whom I know, and honored to be in the pantheon of incredible guests that have been on the Behind the Tool Belt podcast. I mean, honestly, I'm honored.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on, because you're one of, the few or many that have come on the show that make this show as special as it is, and taking the time out of your busy schedule and coming on the show and impacting many people's lives, thousands actually, on a weekly basis. And it's because of guests like you and the message that you articulate to our viewership. That makes this thing so special, along with Vic behind the scenes and a couple other people that are behind the scenes that don't want the credit or don't know that they deserve the credit, I guess, so much to make this thing possible. And thank you for being a part of this movement that is taking place in our industry, the roofing industry, right? Like there's this leadership movement that is happening right now, and it's been going on for quite some time. But I think, and I feel, because of you and maybe a handful of other people, and they know who they are, big shout out to them, but particularly you and John Maxwell and a few other people, have really have had an impact and are an inspiration for people like me, guys that are trying to figure out this leadership thing and the impact and what that means in legacy. What is legacy? And I was listening to something the other day. It happened to be a podcast, and they were talking about, like there's different forms and types of legacy that you can leave behind. Obviously there's money you can leave behind. There's property you can leave behind, but like who they were talking about, like, who are you going to leave behind? Like, what impact are you going to have on people, right? That will continue to carry out your legacy and articulate that message and learn to grow and build, and become, that legacy that you so hard worked for, but then they turn around and create their own legacy, I guess. And that's probably the most powerful form. If I articulated that right, I was never a very good paraphraser, but my point is the impact that I'm having on other people honestly, that want to go out and inspire and impact.
It really begins with, what is your definition of success? I think that's where we need to start, because for so many guys, we talk about begin with the end in mind, but I think the journey along the way, what is the definition of success? For example, let's say that you build a huge company and you've created a lot of cash and you've got some worth and all that, some net worth, but your family is somehow lost or gone astray, or even maybe worse, you don't have one because they're just not, they don't want to be around you. So John Maxwell helped me early on with this definition of success. And we all have to figure it out. What is success? What's the target we're aiming at? So John's definition of success is those who know you the best, love and respect you the most. There's so many celebrities and there's people who don't know them at all that will sing their praises all day long. Yeah, but what does their wife think of them? What do their children think of them? What do their extended family members think of them? What do their best friends think of them? Those closest to them. So if you have done great things with your life, but your family and those closest to you do not love and respect you, I don't know how you can say you've been successful. You may have climbed the ladder to the top, but the ladder was leaning against the wrong building. And so many guys, and here's the thing, you get into that situation down the road and you've gone your whole life like that, good luck trying to fix it. It's probably too late to fix. You can try, but man, the die is pretty well cast. And so I think for every guy that's striving and digging and fighting to become successful, it's very important that your definition of success does not compromise the relationships that matter the most, that are the closest to you, because that is not success. That may be wealth, but it is not success. Then you can begin to say, okay, now that I've succeeded, what do I want to do? And then it gets really fun because, frankly, you make that decision as a family then. You make those decisions together. And that's one of the greatest definitions of success I've ever seen, that a family that's strong and solid and they're successful making decisions about giving money to bless and help other people. Man, that is a great day in the life of a family.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. We talk about that quite often, not just on this podcast, but with the groups of men and women that I travel with today. We talk a lot about where this starts at home, right? Like your success. And if you want to measure wealth, like what makes me feel like I'm the most wealthiest person today is because of my family, how I've treated my family, how we treat each other, the decisions that we make together, the goals that we set and achieve together as a family and grow as a family. I really feel like, it even goes, deeper than that. Like even like, so this past year, this was one of this year's, I got a coach, personal and professional coach. And early on in the year, there was some things that I set out to do this year. One was to just remove a bunch of stuff. Most people, I think, when they set out for a New Year's resolution, they add a bunch more stuff on top of stuff that they haven't completed the year past. So this year I kind of went into like, okay, I'm going to remove, whether it's people, places, things, situations that have distracted me from the real purpose of why I'm here. And I'm not saying that I've been a crappy dad, because I know Jana, Rocket, Jacob, Mackenzie, and all of our grandchildren would beg to differ.
Yes.
But I've beat myself up over the years where I've missed, the football games, the basketball games, the student parent teacher conferences and all that stuff. But I really feel like this starts at home. So one of the things I did this past school year with Rocket is I made a commitment that I wouldn't go into work so early, that I would spend at least 15 minutes with him, because he's our last one at home. And I feel like we've done a better job with him than we did the first two. I said we screwed our first one up. We did a little better on the second one. And now Rocket, he's turning out perfect.
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic. It's not, no one's perfect, and especially me. But anyhow, just those little simple things of just hanging out 15 minutes in the morning before he goes to school and catching that moment of like, hey, how's it going? How did you sleep last night? What are you doing in school today? Right. Like, and being there, even if it's just 15 minutes, but being super intentional about that time that I am there with him. Like I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking emails. I'm not returning text messages and things like that. It's just that, and building those memories. And he came accustomed to that, whether he knows it or not, like looking for me in the morning.
Ty, what you've done there, I think is so brilliant. I mean, I'm going to apply it in my own life, is you didn't overcorrect. My grandfather and I used to golf a lot together before he passed away.
Love that.
And man, if he drove one straight left, he would turn like 90 degrees the other way and drive it straight right. He overcorrected. And I think that so often many guys sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're like, oh, wow, I've been spending too much time at work. And then they bail on work far more than they should and try to overcorrect. And their family's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, how can you guys bash me? I'm trying to do something for you. Well, yeah, but you're overcorrecting. You're going too far. Many times it's a tweak. It's not a complete transformation. And begin with the tweak. And by the way, you're going to get an education on what you need to do next at that point, if you need to do something, but you may not need to do something. But start with that. Start with an adjustment, not a complete transformation. And just take 15 minutes here and begin there, just like you did. And you did it at a key time too. At the beginning of the day, as they're about to go off to school, you were the last voice that was heard. And Ty, you just have good instincts, I think, on making things better in your life. A lot of guys don't. They overcorrect. And that was a smart move.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And like you said, it was just ever so slightly. And what was it? 15 minutes later, getting to work. And I don't even think anybody at work noticed. There was a little guilt because being the man and
Sure.
one of the co-leaders here, I always felt like, and that was my problem early on, especially in my career. I felt like I needed to be the first one here and the last one to leave. Well, that's great to a certain extent. And once you get that message clear and everyone's kind of just like following in line now, well, they're getting here so stinking early to just beat me to get here that I'm not waking up at 3:30 in the morning to be here by 4:30 to beat everybody here at the office.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
so they caught what I was putting down. So I don't, quite frankly, I feel like I might get on their nerves sometimes if I'm here too early and I'm asking too many questions, or I don't know what the heck's going on and I want caught up and things like that. But it's just funny how, as we get older, and we were talking about this right before we hit the live button, where I was talking to you about how Jan and I feel like our relationship is getting better. The older we get and the longer that we're together, the more mature our relationship gets, I guess, and the intimacy that you were talking about. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because that was really cool. So explain to everybody else, like you explained to me earlier, like what's happening here.
Sure. Well, so one of the things you talked about is how that you and your wife are able to spend time together, doing something that you enjoy. There's an intimacy there, in the sense that intimacy is you can be completely yourself, completely who you are. There's no mask. There's no hiding. There's no insecurity where you feel like, gosh, I just don't know if I can trust them. So your relationship has trust, it has honesty, it has sincerity, and it has security, because you can be completely yourself in front of them. And I often use the illustration of the Garden of Eden. And of course, we all kind of think about Adam and Eve and their nakedness, but the nakedness was actually a metaphor. It was an illustration of being completely themselves in front of the other person, with great security, just like a baby is. A little toddler will run out naked, and it doesn't think anything about it, because that baby feels secure. And so often as we age, of course, we lose that. But marriage is an opportunity, I believe, to regain some of that, at least with our spouse, where we don't have to feel the fear of how people are going to see us or look at us. We can be completely ourselves with our spouse. At least that's the goal. And I know many probably listening feel like, gosh, I wish it was like that at my house. I wish I had that. Well, we can talk about what to do to build greater intimacy, but that's the goal, to be intimate and yourself and comfortable, and for there to be great security and great confidence, knowing that you are loved regardless of flaws or weaknesses. Now, you have to be realistic that flaws that involve you hurting your spouse are not acceptable flaws. Those are choices you're making that destroy your intimacy. And here's what destroys intimacy: selfishness. Selfishness, thinking of yourself, doing for yourself, meeting your needs first, is what destroys intimacy eventually. And that's not what you want to do. You want to be someone who's giving and pouring yourself out for the other person. And that helps intimacy to grow. And as you said, you learned that this was a time you and Jenna could be together and have this great time together. And you seized on that, and you were diligent and disciplined to make sure you guys had this time together each night. And therefore, your marriage is getting better because your intimacy is getting stronger.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And Jana's a saint. She's the one that definitely puts everyone else before herself.
Love her. Yeah.
So she's been a perfect example of that for me. And what's crazy about this is most adults and men, I guess, think that by killing themselves at work, they're putting everyone else in front of themselves. But how selfish really that is to spend those hours at work, and the intentions are right, like are pure. And that was my thinking for so many years was, I need to provide for, sneakers for school, the first day of school, the outfits that they're wearing and the things that I thought that's what I was supposed to do. So I would kill myself 12, 16-hour days. But I was missing the boat, where Jana, on the other hand, was, she was the real trooper that was, making sure that dinner was on the, now, Jana, don't get me wrong. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I'm going to go back where Jana and I were both in the business together. So I was very fortunate in that aspect of things. So she actually had to drive me. So she would drive me around to our appointments to meet homeowners, basically everything for the first couple of years when we got together. And we laugh about how things are so much different today. But then when I got my driver's license back, and then my mom became ill and she moved in with us. And then at that time, we decided Jana kind of semi-retire from TC Backer, but manage the household, because now we had 2 grandchildren that were born. My mom was living with us. And so she was watching both our grandbabies during the day. So my son and his significant other could work full time. And then, of course, my mom moved in with us. So at that juncture, I really dove into work full time, but this time Jana's just not by my side. Okay. So now the pressures of life and, and family and things like that, were the weight of that world was on my shoulders. So I thought the longer that I worked, the harder that I worked, and the more money that we made, the better that I was actually providing for my family. But that emotional intimacy piece of it that you talked about was the piece that I was missing. So when I would get home, guess what? My family would get the fumes. They would get crumbs where I poured into everyone else and myself all day long, day long. Well, and then I would get home and I didn't want to be bothered, or I was too stressed out. Like, if you only knew what I went through today, you would leave me alone too, or whatever crazy thoughts that would go through my mind at that time. But it's like, as the older I get and the more mature I get, the more mature the company gets, the more mature that Jana and I's relationship, she's been steadfast to that, like providing, and probably not taking care of herself over the years the way that she probably should have, because just to make sure that the home was tranquil when I got home, right? Not that I was mean or anything, but that she just took that job very seriously, of making sure that the clothes, the kids were well taken care of and fed, and grocery shopping. And trust me, looking after me is a full-time job by itself, let alone moving my mother in and having the grandkids there. And on top of it, the biggest baby would be home, probably grumpy, sometime between, 5 or 8 o'clock PM at night. But with her staying steadfast, and I guess that goes into making sure you pick the right significant other too, right? And thank God that I'm blessed with Jana. But I was missing that intimacy part. And it's like, the older that I get and the more mature the company gets, I've realized that, maybe I didn't have to put in as many hours to get where we're at. And today, especially today, that we have the right people, in the company that can handle and manage things probably way better than I ever did anyhow. I'm able to spend more of that intimate time, even if it is the 15 minutes before I doze off at night. Like I told you earlier, Jan and I have a slumber party just about every single night. And it doesn't matter if we're traveling, and she travels with me most of the time too. We're in a position where she can come with us and travel because our kids are older now. And it's getting better. Like, who would ever thought that our relationship would get better and the intimacy would get better, the trust would get deeper. Like, who would ever thought that our life would be as good as it is today after being with each other for over 14 years now?
Ty, I'm going to tell you something that you said that spoke to me is you talked about how that you've got the right team and you've got them in the right place. I think for a lot of guys, they haven't led well at work in the sense of getting the right teammates, developing them, empowering them, and releasing them to do the work. And so more of the work, number one, that they don't want to do is on them. And more of the work that they shouldn't be doing is on them. Therefore, there's more of a drain on them. You talked about how the family was just getting the fumes. They were getting the fumes because so much had been drained out of the tank. And now you've probably got better people in more empowered positions and more well-developed. And therefore, it's not as much on you. And so I think in order to make sure that the family is being taken care of and ensure that you're happier and that you're stronger and you're better able to pour into them and not just be a taker when you come home, but be a giver as well, is you've got to lead well at work so that work is not so impossibly draining that when you come home, all there's left are fumes. And I have to tell you, I haven't always done that because sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself. But that's not leadership. It's not what leaders do. Leaders empower, develop, and inspire others to work. Our job is to work ourselves out of a job. And guess what? We get a better job when we do that. Even if we're the ones giving us a better job, we get a better job. And therefore, kids get a better dad, spouse gets a better husband, friends get a better friend. And oh, by the way, God gets a better servant because we haven't spent ourselves foolishly at work because we've led poorly. We've actually instead led well, and it makes us a better man the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And you said something earlier too about selfishness. And how selfish were we, when we led that way? I guess we thought in our mind's eye that we were leading people by doing everything ourselves, right? And I remember early on, I had a great team and they were bought in, but the problem is they were waiting outside my office door for me to tell them what to do. Opposed to me teaching them how to think on their own and do for themselves, right? And my mom actually taught me that lesson before she had passed. And she just simply said to me, Ty, you need help. And it's like, I did have the help, but I didn't empower my people. And how selfish of me to get out of here, to give to them, to pour into them, to better themselves. And all along, as I'm letting go, the company is growing, which is then producing better opportunities for them, more opportunities for them, whether it was a raise or a different position in the company to create other positions. So then more people can come on and have a career in the industry that we're in. It's like, how selfish was I? And I had no idea. Like, selfish is very cunning, baffling, and powerful to the point that we have no idea that how selfish that we are as individuals by the less I pour into you or the more that I hold on to because I feel like nobody can do it better, right? How foolish am I for thinking that way, let alone how selfish of an individual am I? And I think a lot of pride gets in the way too. I think pride and ego get like creeps in there a little bit, like, or security purposes. Because we've run into this where people don't want to train other people because they think it's a security thing. Like, if I'm the only one that knows how to do this, then they can't get rid of me. And it's like, and if that's just a horrible culture to begin with, right? Or mindset of an individual, and that's a whole other topic of trying to nurture those people and empower them. Like, look, you're actually holding yourself back because we've bottlenecked departments within our company, because of that. Not only was I the bottleneck because of the selfish, and it wasn't even motives. It was just, I built this thing and nobody can do it as good as I can until I came to realize that, okay, I'm mediocre at everything. I can't excel at anything anymore because I'm wearing 15 hats. And I've talked about this a dozen times where like when I finally started to let go, that blossomed into 12 full-time jobs, right? 40 plus hours a week, which then blossomed into 12 more full-time jobs. Now we're up to 24 people. And it's like, everybody now is just fixated on their task, their job, and they can excel very well, which then creates other opportunities for other people. And it's like, if we can just let go and not be so naive or egotistical or fearful, because I think that's where all of that stems from, is fear.
It does.
Fear that they may outwork me, outperform me, they won't do it as well as me. If we can just let go of that fear, I think, and empower other people, we'll come to find out that they've actually done it much better than I've ever done it to begin with. And that's okay. And that's a whole other topic. Like, I have to be okay with that.
Yes.
Because my ego wants to creep in there too and empower them, but I'm going to take it away.
No question.
Whether they're not doing it the way that I wanted them to do it, or because maybe the fear is that they're actually doing it better than I was doing it.
No question. The very thing that is the center of the illustration of your podcast is behind the tool belt. If we're not going to empower people, then we should also stop using tools. Because, we shouldn't use a Wonder Bar to get under a shingle. We should actually just use our hand. That makes no sense on earth. No one would do that. The tool is made for that. And so often we're maximizing mediocrity because we fail to develop other people. And here's a goal. If you can find someone you can develop to do what you do at an 80% level, you're good enough, because you moving with 100% of your ability over to do something else now means you got 180%. And then you get someone, and then it just goes. And we fail to understand the investment quality of developing others. It is a leader's best friend to develop, train, equip others. And I get it. For me, the biggest challenge is I got to stop to train someone. And in my team, I went to a conference for people. So my role is raising money for the Maxwell Leadership Foundation and Equip. And I met with some guys who do this for another organization. And I asked them how many donor reps they have, people out raising money. He said, we have 28. I said, oh my gosh. He said, how many do you have? At the time, I had 1.5 other than me. And I said, it's no wonder that I'm killing myself. I am so foolish. I have got to develop other people, because not just because we're not going to succeed, but I'm going to kill myself. And that is not a solution. Killing yourself and failure are not solutions. Finding success is a matter of, you have to, this is the phrase, you have to give up to go up. You have to give up to go up. And in some cases, you have to give up the role, or you have to give up the time to develop people. You have to give up some money. But guess what? You're going to go up. And when you go up, everything is going to be better. You're going to have more money. You're going to have more time. You're going to be better for your family. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have stamina. And frankly, you're going to grow the bottom line. It's the best investment you'll ever make, developing others.
Yeah. Well, and how do you go about that? So if you're, okay, so you talk to that gentleman or that organization that had 28 people out there running around, raising money and stuff like that. So when you had that epiphany and you're like, okay, I'm killing myself, right? We need to catch up to this organization or whatever your motivation was, whether it was you're running on fumes and everything. How did you go about that? How did you go out and vet people and make sure that they were a right fit for your organization, for you, not necessarily to waste that time to pour into them? And I'm not saying that there isn't a couple people that fell through the cracks where you did, but how do you minimize that and create a flow of people that attract to you to want to come work with you?
Well, there's no way to do it perfectly. The only way to do it imperfectly, however, is not to do it. That's the biggest, most certain way to fail. But in my case, so I just brought a guy on my team. After that conference, I pounded the desk and said, we've got to have it. It's not an option. It's not like it'd be nice to do this. No, guys, this is like saying it'd be nice to have electricity. We have to do it. It's not an option. So getting a have to in your mind is step one. Because if it's an option, it'll be easy to let it go. No, can't be an option. It's a have to. We have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then and so I'm a person of faith, and Ty, in my mind, it was God help us. And by the way, you get God, there's an old saying, when we work, but when we pray, God works. And man, I believe God brought us the perfect guy. Now, next week, I might think differently about this, but already I'm seeing great success. Already I'm seeing a lot more joy from me, because it isn't just me coming up with ideas. He had a great one last week that just got me so fired up. And so the key is to just go. There's no way to do anything perfectly, but if you don't go, then you've already had a perfect failure in my mind. So go, do your best. Talk to whoever, get people who you respect to interview that person. Let them tell you what they think. Do investigation, find out the tail of the tape of this guy. What has he done, or gal, depending on the role. What has he done in the past? How effective has he been in the past? Ask a bunch of questions. Be critical. Believe you have something good to offer them, and that you're just not going to let anyone roll in the door that happens to be breathing. You're not hiring people just for the sake of hiring people. You're hiring people to build with. So you've got to have winners, because you do not want the situation where you got to pick this person up and drag them along every step of the way. You got to have winners. And so make it clear what you want. Tell them this is what you expect, but also take care of them. Be generous. But do the work on the front side of finding out what this person has to offer. And look, there's going to be failures. There's going to be setbacks, but that beats the daylights out of the setback of not bringing that person on.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that too. And that rolls right into what you were saying, like basically, letting go to grow. Right. You're like, okay, you set your mind. You're like, okay, we need another person in here. If not, we're not going to be able to grow this. Okay. Mm-hmm. But then what I also heard you say is now you brought somebody in with new ideas, fresh ideas. He threw something out there that electrified you, like it gave you the juice back in your legs again. And I think sometimes we need that. We need that outside perspective, because we can't see the forest through the trees anymore because it's so close to us. But then to bring in that fresh blood, and a new set of eyes and stuff like that into
fresh eyes,
into your organization is so crucial and so detrimental, I think, for the growth of the team and the company that you work for. So before we get too far here, I really want everybody to know, who you are, okay, and what you do, because you mentioned John Maxwell. You kind of not that you let the cat out of the bag, but for our viewers that are either are listening now or later on this, So RD, what do you do and why do you do it?
Thanks, Ty. Yeah. So Dr. John C. Maxwell is the most prolific author in the history of the world on the subject of leadership. No one who's ever lived has written more on the subject. John has written 90 books. He just released a great book. I highly recommend it. And I'm not doing this as a part of my job. I'm doing it as a friend to the audience. Mm-hmm. High Road Leadership is the best book I think John has written in so long, and the others were wonderful. But High Road Leadership is a great way to develop your team. If you look at a high road leader, what does a high road leader do? A low road leader thinks only of themselves. A middle road leader thinks of give and take. A high road leader thinks of what's best for others. And being a high road leader are the kind of leaders we want. We don't want leaders that are like always trying to negotiate something for you and them. And you feel like it's always going to be a trading session with them. And you for sure don't want a low road leader that only thinks of themselves. You want someone that's high road, someone that's always going to pour themselves out for others. So that's a great book. John is a wonderful leader. And so John started charities that were designed to develop leadership in other folks who maybe can't afford it or don't have access to it, or it may have bad models of leadership. Mm-hmm. And right now, he's not so sure that we have really great models of leadership at the highest levels in our country, and we need better models. And that's why he wrote High Road Leaders or High Road Leadership. So the charities that John built, one is more of a faith-based charity that's called Equip. And then the other is the Maxwell Leadership Foundation. And the Maxwell Leadership Foundation, we use John's content to bring about transformation in other people's lives. For example, right now we just crossed over a huge milestone. We have 5 million kids that are going through or have gone through the leadership, personal growth, values-based curriculum that we have created around the world, including 424,000 here in the United States. We're just getting started in the United States. This is in the public schools, not Christian schools or private schools, in the public schools of America. This content during class time, not after school, during class time. And I mean, it is having a transformational impact on students in our country. So super exciting to be a part of that. And then we have another, 4 million or so worldwide that are using this content. That's just kids. Mm-hmm. When you add in adults, it's another 5 million. We've had 10 million now. We just crossed over that milestone this week. We have 10 million people who have sat, and the way we do it 100% of the time is at a round table. Because we could teach John's content all day long. But when you sit at a round table and you're discussing things like attitude and personal growth and, work ethic and whatever it may be that makes you better at what you do, leadership qualities, the ability to work with people skills, communication, all those things. But when you do it at a round table, it's the difference between information and transformation. Being at a round table tends to make people apply this to their life. So we've done this one table at a time. We've gotten 10 million people to learn this content one table at a time. And it's my job to resource that work around the world. And so this year, if you're a person who prays for someone, I'd appreciate your prayers, because our budget this year is $28 million to do that. But we're highly efficient with it because we're a leadership organization. So when you develop leaders multiply, and therefore our impact has been multiplied. Most of that 10 million has happened in the last 2 to 3 years. Wow. So it's now getting to where it is just exploding. We have a very strong faith-based work too that we do through Equip, that through that work, we've been able to impact over 1.6 million people worldwide. And most of that impact has happened in the last year. In fact, we crossed the million mark for that in August of 2023. And now here we are in July, and we're already at another 600,000. So we'll get that second million before this year ends, and then we'll be at 1 million a year for that organization. So that's kind of what we do. And if you have interest in it, you can go to maxwellleadership.org, or you can go to equip.org, and you can find out more about that. But honestly, our hope would be to bless your audience, Ty, and everyone that's involved. I am not here to get anything. My only hope, sincerely, is to give to you. And that's what our organizations want to do too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that. That's why you're here, for sure.
Thanks.
And that's how this podcast was built. We just needed an outlet or a platform for us to promote our charitable events and get the word out. Like, hey, come join us. This is the impact that we're trying to make on our local community here. So again, going back to what we said earlier, this is why our show has become so special, is because of people like you, and especially you that come on here. But that you said something earlier, that 28 million, weren't you at some point in time like the man that was supposed to like be able to come up with those funds? Like okay, so it's a nonprofit organization, and I meant to ask you this a long time ago because I wanted to start a nonprofit. And when I listened to you speak a couple years ago at the couples retreat, you had said that when you first took over your position, it was down here, but today now it's up here. So you're responsible for, I guess, finding these donors and things like that. So when you said your budget is $28 million this year, I guess, to make sure that you have the impact that you guys have, are you in charge of finding donors and things like that, and where and who and how you do that, because that is amazing. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, my first year, I started in 2017, Ty, in this role. In fact, this past June, I celebrated 7 years at Equip and the Maxwell Leadership Foundation. In 2017, our budget was $4.6 million. And in 2024, 7 years later, it's $28 million.
Wow.
So it's been a rocket ship of growth, and it is my job entirely to raise that money. Now, I'm not doing it by myself, although at times I think I've attempted to, and that's just been asinine and never the plan, and foolishness, honestly, on my part. But sometimes you're so busy doing the work, you can't see how to do it better. And that's where one of the most important things are perspective and self-evaluation. And none of us can see ourselves. You know, sometimes if you're ever in a store that has one of those 3-sided mirrors and you look in the store and you go, wow, that bald spot's gotten really big back there. You know, you just don't see it. And we need the benefit of perspective. And so I was able to take a hard look. And honestly, sometimes what helps you take a hard look are difficulties. I mean, sometimes I think we're persecuted and messed up by success. But it is when we're not seeing as much success that you snap out of the fog of the delusion that you're in, and you see yourself better, and you realize, my goodness, we're careening off of a cliff if we don't stop and do this differently. And so this past year, 2023 into 24, has been one of self-examination and perspective, and we had an expert that came in and studied us a little bit and helped us to see ourselves. And this person basically came back with one conclusion: you need more people. And so thankfully, and by the way, when you have outside help to analyze, everyone else gets on board. If I come in and say it, well, everyone's like, well, you just want to have more workers so you don't have to do as much. I'm like, well, yeah, that's for sure. But the motives become less questionable when you get outside help that doesn't have a bias or an opinion at stake. And they say it, so you're benefited. And you know, some of the agencies that sponsor this, events like RoofCon and other things, are opportunities to get perspective and to see yourself in a 3-sided mirror, so you can better understand what isn't working and what needs to get better. So we took a hard look, and we've all been in a mode. So we've got another guy that's coming on in a different role. That's sort of he's going to raise money, but he's going to be paid based on how much he raises. Okay. Kind of an eat what you kill kind of thing. And then I hired another guy that we actually brought onto the staff, and he's got a salary, and my hope is to have 2 more people in this role by sometime around the middle of next year. And to transition my role from being the primary fundraiser, because I'm responsible for that $28 million, you know, by hook or by crook, getting that money. And honestly, it's just ludicrous to imagine that any one man can raise that much money. Honestly, though, I'll tell you this: I believe that we're going to raise considerably more money than what we need to raise if we bring people on. You see, when you do it yourself, you become need driven. We need to do this, and your focus is need. When you recruit help and you develop people and you get more people on your team doing this, you become opportunity oriented. When it's just you, all you've got are a bunch of spinning plates, and you got to keep those suckers spinning, which means you've become need oriented, rather than you're not focusing on spinning plates anymore. Suddenly your eyes are open to opportunities. Suddenly you can jump on an opportunity and you can maximize your organization. But when you're busy doing all the work, man, you cannot be opportunity focused. You're merely need focused. And this is part of what I realized I needed to do. And that's why I had so much energy from this new idea this guy gave me, because it just opened up this whole other thing that gave me an opportunity that I can seize that I wouldn't have even seen if I didn't have this additional help.
Yeah, I love that. I love how this is all tied together too in this whole entire conversation of, you know, letting go, putting the right people on the seats on the bus, and new ideas, taking their ideas, running with their ideas, allowing them to run with their ideas, I love all this. And you talked about, we talked a lot about selfish and self-centeredness and leadership and stuff like that. And obviously there are people that are born, natural leaders, but I think for the most part, when we talked about selfishness, it's so blinding and cunning and baffling and powerful, right? So what can, and I'm going to change gears here just a little bit, because obviously leadership is a skill and there's multiple facets of that, whether it be, terminologies like empathetic or, steadfast and grit and giving, right? So, but what can one do, right? If they're early on in their career, if there's somebody's watching right now and they're looking to either go out on their own and become an entrepreneur, or if they're in a leadership position, newly in a leadership or management position, like what are the key things that they should really focus on?
Great question. In my mind, understanding what leadership is, that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's the ability to get people to follow you. It's the ability to get people to go in the direction you think you should go, that vision is leading you, that you have for your organization or your role. So if you are a young leader, maybe you don't even really have that many people you're leading, or maybe you're just someone that's aspiring to be a leader. I think the most important first step is that you've got to practice leadership in some way. So find some way to be a leader, whether it be a volunteer role or something at church or in a nonprofit organization where you can practice leadership. By the way, being a part of a small group sometimes is a way to do that, because you get the opportunity to be a facilitator of that small group from time to time. But in the end, there's really no such thing as a leader that is succeeding who is not growing. Growth is both how to do what you need to do, but it's also, for me, personal growth is the energy to do what I need to do. So I think for every leader, it's what you learn after you know it all that really counts. I think Benjamin Franklin or someone like that said that. In other words, we especially if you're someone who's gone to college, trust me, if you've gone to college, you know just enough to be dangerous. You really don't know as much as you think you know. And frankly, you may not know what you need to know. You've been sitting for 4 years with people who've been in the halls of academia, and those guys, they don't have any clue how the real world works. And honestly, they're living in such a fairy tale land as a university professor. No offense to any university professors that are out there, but trust me, you're not in the real world. And people, I heard John Maxwell say one time about an educator who's teaching pastors. He said that guy couldn't build a church if a cloverleaf emptied in his parking lot. And here he is teaching guys to build churches. It's you just have to tell yourself, I don't care how well educated you may feel like you are. And in some cases, if you're educated in medicine, there are certain things you've learned. But who have you learned it from? Not professors. You've learned it from actual physicians doing the job. So if you've just come out of college, you've got to get mentors who are doing the thing you want to do. Because the academics who've taught you, honestly, they haven't taught you. They've just given you the illusion that you're educated. It's what you learn after you know it all that really counts. And guess what? That's true for all of us. We've got to constantly tell ourselves, okay, I think I know it all on this subject, but I probably need to learn something. Mm-hmm. And the guy that has shut himself off, or the gal that has shut herself off from growing and learning, is a person that is a train wreck waiting to happen. So in my mind, grow yourself, build yourself, develop yourself, and do it for the rest of your life. And you're going to find yourself one day unconsciously brilliant and competent. Mm-hmm. You're smart and you don't even know you're smart because you've been so determined to grow yourself over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love your response. Thank you for that answer. Okay. So let's say we've been doing this for a while now. Okay. You get to RD Saunders level, or you get to Ty Backer's level, which is nowhere near yours or John's. But when you get to a certain level and now you're leading people. Okay. And you have an organization, or you have a group of people that you're leading, sometimes from behind, sometimes from the front, or all together at the same time. What do you do? What activities, what what actions, what skills, how do you sustain that longevity for that long? And let's use John as an example. Like he's wrote 90 books. So like who's mentoring John? What is John doing to continue to sharpen his skills to continue to inspire those like you? Okay. How do you not outgrow John?
Gosh,
I guess, how would someone like that? So in my organization, how do I keep the people from outgrowing me without putting my thumb on them and say, no, that's it. I'm not going to let you outgrow me no more. Like, how do you do that? Like when you get there, like when you just said like, okay, and not that you'll ever figure it out. Okay. And if you think you did, then you're already, if you're not growing, you're going. So,
well, let's hope that our team outgrows us in the sense that they're getting better and they're evolving and we're pouring into them. And in some way they're getting better. Nothing changes. And this is where our own security is pretty important as a leader. If you become insecure, then you're going to want to hold people back and you're going to want to see them not get better or smarter than you. But if you're secure as a leader, I'm the owner. I've got the authority. I've got the power. I've got the position. So you don't need to be worried somehow. Now, let's imagine you're in a leadership role where you're not the owner and you're worried that your team is going to get ahead of you. I promise you, if you are working to hold people back, someone is going to get ahead of you and you won't be able to stop them. And so in my mind, the key factor that makes all of it work and all of it happen is that every day I'm going to keep learning and growing. I'm going to build myself. I'm going to be secure. So in John's case, John, every day, he's in his office growing himself, learning, studying. He is a voracious learner. We were at an event one time and they had a bunch of cool things about their company and their culture and their mindset. They had it up on the walls in their like lobby area. And there is a room literally with like 500 people from that company waiting to hear John speak. And they're in there just like, is John coming in or not? And John was out in that lobby. He was taking pictures. He then would send a picture to someone. He'd say, read this. I want to get back to you. Let's talk about this. What was going on? He was growing himself. So I encourage you, the way to stay ahead is to keep ahead, not keep people down. And so you stay ahead by growing yourself, by continuing to demand the best of yourself and get your eyes off of, are they getting ahead of me? And get your eyes on, am I getting ahead of them? And even if they do get ahead of you, man, I tell you what, if I go to my leaders and I say, this guy we've hired, I'm telling you right now, he's doing so well. We need to promote him or we're going to lose him. If I don't say that, they're going to get rid of me because I have to give up. I have to be secure. It's John the Baptist. There's one coming after me and that person's succeeding and I got to get out of the way. And in my mind, if I'm not willing to do that, well, goodness gracious, I don't deserve to be in that company anyway. I don't want to get my paycheck and have to kind of turn around backwards and receive it because I don't deserve it. I mean, I don't want to be that person. So I don't know what to tell you about someone who's actively working to keep someone from succeeding around them. I mean, I don't want that person on my team. And the person that says, hey, this person's doing great, I'm going to take care of that person if I'm their leader. And I believe that our company would do the same thing for me. And if not, then maybe there's a role for me somewhere else that I need to be looking at. And I know that's not something that is comfortable. But honestly, if I'm not growing enough to stay ahead, why should that company keep paying me? So I think in the end, we decide where we are, not what someone else does. We are the reason we stay employed. We are the reason we are successful. And the moment I think it's someone else and what they're doing and that I got to hold them back. That's the moment I've given over my role to something completely different than what I was hired for. And that's building this company to be the best it can be. So build yourself, don't cut corners, don't ask for breaks. And if someone somehow is succeeding and they're getting the attention and they're being noticed, don't try to hold them back. In fact, celebrate it and be secure. And frankly, your company is probably going to take good care of you for being that way. And if they don't, maybe there's a role that's a better fit for you in some other way. And you'll have greater joy, not trying to hold someone back, but being what you need to be in that other place. I'm not encouraging people to leave. I'm just saying the mindset of I got to fight and hold that guy down. Goodness, I don't want to have anything to do with that in my own life.
Yeah.
I would hate to be like that. But guess what? I'm secure. I'm not sitting around worried about it because I know that I'm working hard. I'm giving my best and I'm growing myself. If that guy gets ahead of me, that's on me, not him.
Yeah. Great response. Always great response. And the reason why I brought that up is because we've been doing this for quite some time. This year's our 16th anniversary. And I've been, a horrible boss to a poor manager to a developing leader. Okay. And it's been a journey. Of course, there's no finish date. And I like how you mentioned, security, right? Like be secure with yourself and be very self-aware of certain things and behaviors that come up. And I think, because I think as children, I think we're born selfish, right? Like we scream,
Sure.
we pout until we get our own way. And it's like over time and you develop into, obviously an adult and hopefully a caring and giving adult. But I think we talked about ego and pride and things like that. And I've managed, I've bossed, I've led with an iron fist and I've cursed people out and I've just done, I've done it wrong, I guess, for lack of better words. And being on this journey that I've been on, I've seen people come and I've seen people go. And one of my theories I've come up with, like, I know when someone comes to our company, and if they do leave, they leave as a different person. Okay. Because of the impact and tools that we've given them in the training and coaching and mentoring and things like that. And the only hopes that I can have for them is that if they go out on their own and they create a business, I hope that they can generate $100 million and can impact 500 million people's lives with what they've learned when they came through here. Has it always been easy for me? No, because there either was a personal connection with this person or fear comes in that, oh my gosh, they're going to be competition or whatever. But what I found is most of the time, those people remain friends.
No question.
And see, that's the strange thing about legacy, right? Legacy, that whether they know it or not, they're carrying that torch from here to there. And that's the catch-22, I guess, about legacy on that part of legacy. Let's say Vic came in here and he went out and he started to aspire other people to start podcasts and things like that. Well, it started here, and that would be a part of my legacy that I pass to him now that he's passing to other people. And all of those people that are being impacted have no idea where that legacy originated, where the origin of that legacy began. And I think as leaders, we have to be okay with that. As long as we're having an impact, who cares how it gets there?
Exactly.
And if that's with a past or present and co-leader or team member, then it wasn't that the point.
Yeah.
And I talk about this. We do a food drive every year, and we get an award for it at the local home builder show. And somebody made a comment, what if somebody beats us next year on this? And I was like, then we win. If we've encouraged someone enough to go out and do the things that we do in our community, it wasn't that the point? That we inspired other people to want to generate that amount of food to give it to the local food banks. Like that's a win. That's a win. That's not, now they're not our competition. That's great if it did create a healthy competition. So maybe you guys need to get your rear in gear and produce more food next year. Okay. But what it did, now we're making twice the impact.
No question.
Than we did the year before, if we've encouraged other people to want to give back to the local community. So I just wanted to throw that in there because legacy, you look at it like it's legacy. They're not competition. That's your legacy. You know? Yeah. So anyhow, before we get off here, we're already in it for an hour already. I can't even believe that. I enjoy our conversation, and you are just a wealth of knowledge, like a fountain of knowledge. And I always get something, and I know everybody else will get something out of this podcast. But before we get off here, is there something that you would love to leave with our listeners and viewers today that has really impacted you as a father and a leader?
You know, I love the great Mother Teresa quote, and this quote has meant so much to me, and it just keeps me centered. It says, "People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. Create what you spend years creating, others may destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. I cannot control the actions of the rest of the world, but I am 100% in charge of my own. And between me and God, that is what really matters. Am I doing what I should do? Am I being what I should be? And honestly, if I am before him, it doesn't really matter what anyone else does. He keeps me focused and centered for my family, for my kids. Honestly, after doing this podcast, I remember something I said to my wife earlier today, and it just grieves me. And I'm going home and I am washing her feet and telling her how beautiful and how much I love her and how blessed I am, because I never want to be that kind of person that I was today, or was a little bit short and made it sound like her request of me was some onerous burden. No, everything she asks of me is a joy. So my thought is, for everyone here today, kick yourself in the butt, be a better man, be a better husband, be a better dad, be a better friend, be a better leader, be better. You're in charge of it and you can make it happen. And when you do, the fruit that comes from that will be worth every kick in the pants you gave yourself.
Amen. Good outro. Good. That was great. No matter what, always do good. No matter what, no matter how horrible it stings. But man, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. What a great message.
Ty, one more thought. Tomorrow is the 4th of July.
Yes.
Man, we're so blessed to be in this great country. I travel the world and I kiss the ground every time I land back here. Mm-hmm. And but it's also a great time to do some self-examination. You're one half of the way through 2024 and you're with your family, and hopefully you're celebrating and enjoying our freedom as a nation and as Americans. And I want to encourage you to take some time tomorrow to kind of analyze yourself. And I mean, start now, frankly. But tomorrow is a good time to say, okay, what do I want to make the rest of this year be? And how can I grow myself? How can I get better? Tuning in this podcast, you're already among some of the smartest people in this industry. And being around people like Ty and all the folks from roof.com and roofing.com and RoofCon, they're some of the greatest people I know. So I encourage you to keep growing yourself and do some self-analysis tomorrow. And look in that 3-sided mirror and see what's going on, and let's make the rest of this year just an absolute winner.
I love that. And the message is it can start right now, and you can start over as many times as you need to throughout the course of the day.
That's right.
But let's make the rest of the year a great year, and let's all take some time to self-reflect, spend some time with our families. And RD, thank you so much for your wise words and your wisdom, and thank you everybody else for tuning in on this Wednesday, hopefully on your lunch break. If you didn't get to catch the whole thing, check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, and of course, Facebook. Until then, you guys have a great weekend. Happy 4th of July, everybody, and take care of each other.
God bless.